What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, I've got another discussion video. Today, I'm talking about reptiles. I know what you're thinking. John. That's so obscure. That's so random. What the hell? And I think that's the point, because reptiles are so obscure, and I think they don't have to be as obscure. Not, they still would be obscure even after they get what I hope they would ever get. But like they would be a little bit less obscure and have something to their name, because the reptiles have literally nothing to their name. I don't know if they've ever had a single good archetype. Venom is bad, reptilian is bad, worm is bad, aliens are bad. Like they're all like duty. They're all duty, and they always almost have been duty. So today I'm talking about just a little discussion on like what reptiles have that is actually like kind of good generically, because we have archetypes like zombies, plants, these other like types that just have like such good generic support. Like no matter what zombie deck comes out, no matter what plant deck comes out, we immediately already have like a core of cards that are already supporting that. You don't have to wait for future support. You already have extra bonus help immediately, and this type has a few, but it is still lacking even compared to those types. So we're going to go over those, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'd like to see if we did get archetypes for reptiles, because I think we should. I think they deserve it. They've never had any kind of like fame in terms of like being any kind of good like ever, and so I just want them to get some just desserts. I think every type deserves to be good at some point, and this one has not had its chance yet, but I hope it will. So when we go to start and look at like the legit, decent, like generic stuff that the type has, it's not a lot. As you can see, there's only really 8 cards here. So let's just get started with Reptilian Lamia. This is a monster. This is actually a new monster, which is funny as hell to me, that this one's like super new and there's like no other monsters that are ever even like decent generically for like reptiles. But she says if she's in your hand and all monsters you control are reptiles, at least one, you have to have at least one on your field. You can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, change its attack to 0, and if you do special summon this card, then take damage equal to that monster's original attack. So you gotta eat some damage, but it gets itself on board, and it neutralizes a monster in terms of its attack. Not the worst thing in the world. She's also a tuner, so keep that in mind. And then its other effect says if it's sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can target up to 2 monsters on the field and change their attack to 0 also. So very, very high potential there. Just making an entire board 0. On your way to maybe synchro summoning to like a potential boss monster. I don't know. But a potentially nice card. Next up is Snake Rain. This one is probably the highest ceiling card you'll see here. This card just says discard a card and then Foolish Burial 4 reptile monsters from your deck. Insanely powerful, but again, we need not only a reptile archetype that is competent in any way, but also has graveyard synergy, because not every deck does have graveyard synergy, and maybe Konami knows that Snake Rain is a card, so if they were making reptile archetype, they might just not make it graveyard centric because they know how powerful this card could be. So there could be some stuff there, but still potentially a very, very powerful card. Viper's Rebirth is kind of like a monster reborn for reptiles, but it has some restrictions. All monsters in your graveyard have to be reptile. You have to reborn a non-tuner, so you can't reborn tuners. And the monster you reborn would be destroyed on the end phase. So the idea is you bring something back, you link it off, synchro it off, exit it off, whatever you're going to do with it, and then it doesn't have to be destroyed. So it's a nice extender potentially, but it does have its drawbacks. But I think it's fine. It's not once per turn, which is nice. So there is some potential stuff there. Snake Whistle. This is one that's a little tough as well. When a reptile monster you control is destroyed, period, you can destroy it yourself. However, just if it is destroyed, special summon a level 4 lower reptile straight from the deck. So if there is a powerful card, I mean, imagine if Konami made a new archetype for reptiles and like they had their own Oviraptor. We know how powerful Oviraptor can be. If this deck had a card as worthwhile as Oviraptor in terms of how much advantage it can get you and how far it can push you, maybe this card could be worth, because if your opponent or you ever destroy a reptile, you're just like, I'm in. I'm going straight to my Oviraptor-esque new reptile card, and then we're popping off. So there could be potential there, but again, it does rely on stuff being destroyed, which is not always the best. It's a trap, so it's slow. It definitely has its drawbacks. And the last like main deck card is Offering to the Snake Deity. I actually like this card quite a bit. This is probably my favorite one, my favorite card here as far as like genericism goes for like reptiles. This card says target a face-up reptile you control and 2 cards your opponent controls. Any 2 cards, face-up, face-down, spell, trap, monster, don't matter. Destroy all 3 targets. What I like about this is we've seen cards like this, and usually what they do is these cards are like tribute a monster, then destroy 2 cards. But this does not tribute his cost. So if this does get negated, you actually don't even lose your reptile monster. Whereas if it was tribute his cost, you tribute, then it get negated, and then you lose both cards. So I like that. I like that it also destroys, because if there's a reptile archetype where the reptiles float in any way, you pop yours, you pop 2 of your opponent's cards, and then your card floats anyway. So then you also just like steamroll even more advantage, or at least earn back some of your advantage while your opponent just lost 2 cards. So this card definitely has some potential as well. And then for the extract monsters, King of the Feral Imps, this is Gallant Granite, but for reptiles. Detach an Exceed material, add a reptile from deck to hand. Any reptile that's no level restrictions, and he's completely generic. He's any 2 level 4 monsters. Really, really nice for an Exceed. That card could definitely come up. Alien Shock Trooper and Reptilian Echidna are the last 2 cards here. Shock Trooper's interesting, but I don't think he's that great. He has a quick effect to discard a monster to place 8 counters equal to the level of the monster on any monsters anywhere on the field. And then if this card is destroyed by battle or a card effect is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon non-link reptiles from your graveyard with different names up to the number of monsters your opponent controls with 8 counters. I know that's a lot, and the main thing here is this: he relies on being destroyed and sent to the graveyard, and if he has the potential, and like you have to discard from hand. He just kind of takes a lot. I mean, he is at least a 1900 beater that you can make with any 2 reptiles, so that is definitely nice. And if you maybe the archetype wants to get stuff engraved, he does just discard monsters from the hand for free, so like that's also like kind of potentially nice. Like, I don't know, it'd be a specific archetype to really make good use of him, but it is possible. And then Echidna. Echidna works really well with Lamia, but Echidna takes any 2 monsters as long as one of them's a reptile, so there's also a little bit of an opening there for like other cards, other like types of monsters to be played in the deck. If it's link summoned, target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and its attack becomes 0. During your main phase, if your opponent controls monster or monsters with 0 attack, you get to add reptiles with different names from your deck to your hand up to the number of monsters your opponent controls with 0 attack. Also, you're locked into only being able to special summon reptiles from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. This card is super interesting to me because mid, late game, or just going second, this card could be insanely impactful. Not only on summon does it neutralize a monster in terms of its attack stat, but then you also just get at least 1 search. But also, if you use Lamia, you also probably made an opponent's another monster 0, so you could potentially search 2 or even more than that. I mean, because also if this card is used as synchro, you could have made potentially 2 other monsters. Like, you could potentially search 4 with this combo, which is actually crazy. I know locking into reptiles isn't the best, but if we have a new reptile archetype, there's a good chance we're locked into, or we're only really using reptile monsters anyway. So like that could like not be the biggest deal. But yeah, those are like really the main like generic cards that reptiles have access to at this point in time. I think some of them are good. I really like Offering. I think Snake Rain could be insanely powerful. Viper's Rebirth pretty good. And then these 2, Echidna and Feral Imps are like really powerful as well. So it's not a ton, but there are some gems in there that could potentially help a reptile archetype. Now, here is where I have fun. This is where the fun comes in. I love thinking about potential future archetypes like this and how I would go about it. I'm going to go back to a certain deck that already exists, and that would be frogs, or Paleozoic frogs, because I think this deck is very cool. I think the design is very cool. It's cute, but it's also kind of cool because like there's like Ronin Toad, and he's like a little samurai frog. Like, that's really cool. And it's also good. It was like one of the best decks at one point, and it's still like a rogue contender to this day. And what if... Now, frogs are amphibians, I believe. So like frogs are aqua, which makes sense. But what if we took turtles and made turtles like the equivalent, like, but for reptiles? So like, it doesn't even have to be a lot. 4 or 5 like turtle monsters in the main deck, just kind of like frogs. Like, I know there's more frogs that exist in the game, but like as far as just like the frog Paleozoic archetype, there's really only 3 or 4 that are actually like legit. And so what if we did that with turtles? I mean, I have some classic turtles here. We have like Gamma Seal, really cool. Catapult Turtle, classic. UFO and Pyramid Turtle, powerful. And then Electromagnetic, just another interesting one. But when we look at it as a whole, like, I think this could be so cool. I think turtles could be like the next frogs. And it could be obviously a defensive probably based deck, because turtles, they have shells, defensive creatures by nature. That could be really, really awesome. Give them some traps. They already have potential traps that are good. Like, I think there could be so much potential. I think just so many people love turtles as well. So like that would be a huge like hit for a lot of people. Like, just so many people would love it. If it was good, it'd be even better. I don't know. Turtles would be crazy. And the other thing I wanted to say was alligators or crocodiles, either or. Really, we really don't even have that many gator cards in the game, or even crocodile cards. But I think they look cool, and if Konami did them right, it could be a more badass archetype. Instead of like turtles would be maybe more cuter. I could see them being kind of more like frogs, and that a lot of people think the frog archetype is cute. But alligators could be a little more like just ferocious, a little more offensive, something like dinosaurs almost. I could get a feel for that. And then, maybe try and flesh it out and combine it with some of this generic reptile stuff, and maybe we could have something interesting. So that's pretty much my idea there. I just want to bring this to light a little bit, and maybe I get lucky as hell. Maybe Konami sees this video, and maybe they're like, you know what, you're right, random dude from America. Like, let's make turtles an archetype. Let's make alligators an archetype. Let's make reptiles relevant. I'm not particularly a lover of reptiles, but I do think every type deserves its time to shine, and this type just has it. So, I don't know. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. I think this is just a cool discussion video I want to talk about, and let me know if you think my ideas are cool, lame. If you have your own, throw them down below. I'm definitely curious to hear that. That would be really cool. I love talking about stuff like this, like just potential future cool stuff, and I don't know. I'm a nerd, so... Thank you so much for watching, guys. As always, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet and you want to see more discussion videos like this one, or deck profiles, or news videos, whatever. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.